Cheers to adulting.
So, I'm Ashley Barajas.
And I'm Abby Rosemarin.
And this is Cheers to Adulting.
Cheers.
And today we are joined by our lovely guest, Emily Raese, who I would say is a pretty good expert when it comes to mental health. Hi, Emily.
Hi. I don't know if I'd say expert, except by virtue of the fact that I have a plethora of mental illnesses.
Well, that's why that makes you an expert.
Sure.
A personal expert. So a little sidebar. Emily and I have actually, I don't know how long we've known each other.
Oh God, I think probably like 6 years now.
Yeah. So for people who are listening that don't know us, Emily and I started, actually, the first time, I'm a little drunk.
Standard.
Yeah, Emily knew who I was when I first met her, and I had never met her before.
You know, like a creep.
Yeah, so she was like, hi, yeah, I know you, and I'm like, we've never met. It was at a nursery that we worked, I had my first day, and she was like, no, we know each other, and I'm like, no, we don't. But
sure don't.
You're very nice. And she's like, oh, I used to date the brother of a friend that you went to school with. And I was like, oh, still have never met you. She was like, oh, I must have stalked you on Facebook. I'm like, that makes sense. Okay. And then I think...
define the rest of our relationship.
Yeah. By the end of the day that our very first time meeting, Emily told me, so we're best friends now. And I said, okay. Which doesn't make sense at all, being that that's something that I would do.
I was just feeding off of your energy. You know, you're putting a lot of like, I'm friends with everyone energy out there. Because anyone who knows me knows that I have like crippling social anxiety.
Yes.
So like me being like, hey, you're cool, let's be friends is like super out of character for me. I already knew you because like you were all up on Facebook, and I was like, this chick is going to be my friend, and I'm going to make it like happen through the force of my will.
Yes. So today's episode is brought to you by a cocktail picked by Emily. So it is called The Painkiller, which I think is kind of episode appropriate because we are talking about mental health, painkillers get rid of your pain, and we're gonna tell you how to make mental pain go away, or at least make it manageable.
How to deal with the mental pain.
So that's what we're going to be talking about in today's episode. We're going to be talking about mental health. This is one of our few and far between extremely adulty episodes.
Yeah. You really don't want to make light of mental health and be like, oh yeah, anxiety, depression, but I'm ching. Like, no, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, mental health is serious, but at the same time, it doesn't necessarily have to be a total fucking bummer. So brains are fucking stupid, and sometimes you have to learn how to go to battle with it, or how to woo your brain into submission.
Oh my God. Arm wrestle that bitch.
Yeah.
So basically we need to fight or fuck our brains?
Yeah. Get BDSM all up on that brain.
Oh my God.
Emily's like, what have I got myself into? To start us off, Emily, would you like to share adulting struggle or triumph that you've had of the day or the week or the month?
Or even your year.
Oh my God. If we go to the year, like the entire episode will need to feel like, and then I bought a car, and then I did this. It's like endless. Like last year has been a crazy time. Sorry, my...
Hi, Trip!
Yeah. Whoa. Surprise guest.
Hey, Trip, you're gonna be on Spotify and Apple iTunes and Stitcher.
I'm just picking up my pen and pencil to go work. Great to see you, Ashley.
Great to see you, Trip. I'm not editing that out. That's staying forever.
I was recording this. You tell people things. Anyway, okay.
In the last episode, you can clearly hear Michael chopping up cucumbers in the background, so I
Would you
mean,
like to top up some cucumbers?
yes, please.
He's still here. Yes. Could you go? Could you go?
Love you.
Go away.
So, what adulting have you done lately?
I just shooed my boyfriend. No.
That's adulting.
It's a thing. So this on Monday I turned 27.
Yay! Happy
So-
belated birthday!
Yeah, so much. And like in previous birthdays, as Ashley well knows, I have
Drinks
real drunk.
tequila, gets drunk, and cries.
Listen, some people cry when they're on tequila. Some people start fights. Some people really cry on tequila, and that's me. But this birthday was like a particularly adulty birthday because Trips, who you now have met, audience, my boyfriend's parents came into town, and we like planned the whole weekend for them. And you know, these people, the only part, I love them so much. They're like the best people, like best parents of a partner I could ever have hoped for. But these people can drink you under the table.
Drink me under the table, or just drink the general public?
The general public, but probably also you. I don't know how they do it. They have so much fun. They like travel the world together. They're best friends, and yeah. So on my birthday, we took them out to dinner. They took us out to dinner.
Oh, okay.
And because we're poor, and they took me out to dinner, and
I'm poor, help me, please.
I spent my birthday with my boyfriend and his parents at a tapas restaurant.
A topless restaurant. I
Yeah.
like where this is going.
Topless tapas.
Nothing says happy birthday like going to a topless restaurant with your boyfriend's parents.
You're right. Or tapas. Right?
Or tapas. Or a tapas topless bar.
Exactly.
I'm gonna TM.
Okay.
Pass that.
That's happening, everybody.
There needs to be a thing with like topless flamenco dancers.
Or like reinvented sushi, like eating sushi off of a human.
But with tapas on
Yes.
Ooh, that could get messy real
Tapas
quick.
on their tatas.
That is like the like expensive like VIP treatment is tatas and tapas.
Right? Ceviche and the belly button.
Ooh.
Tiny little shrimpies.
Yeah, little shrimps on your tits, your nips.
Why not, man? This is gonna happen, everybody. We're gonna open this up in Vegas, and it's gonna be wonderful.
Yup.
You know, I think I could go far. Mm-hmm. I would just like to say that I accidentally coined this phrase, and then you took it to the next level.
We'll give you percentage.
Yep.
Yes.
Business partner.
Woo!
So adulting.
Yes.
That was my adulting, and it was on a Monday.
Oh,
We had
yeah.
bottles of wine. They had 2 vodka gimlets. By the time like we dropped them off at their Airbnb, I was like feeling it, and they're like, "Do you want to come in and have a beer?" I'm like, "How are you sober?" I don't understand. It's 11 o'clock on a Monday. How do you do this? But they're just marvelous people, and that was my adulting.
Aw, that's sweet.
Nice.
Abby, would you like to go next?
Sure. Well, and since it's the beginning of the month, my adulting is the same vein of my existence, my freelancing existence at the beginning of every month, which meant
Oh, invoicing.
invoicing.
Oh my God, are you gonna go talk about invoicing for 10 minutes?
I promise I will not talk about invoicing for 10 minutes, aside from the fact that I knocked that shit out. I invoiced everybody, even though I hate that shit. I logged my hours, which is another thing I have to do as a registered yoga teacher. You know, you have to do yay many hours a year.
Yay, many!
Yay, many! Exactly. It's so many, you celebrate it. And they have a credentialing system, and I'm getting excited because the highest credentialing you can get as a registered yoga teacher requires a minimum of 4 years of teaching, certain levels of education, and at least 2,000 hours of teaching. And at the end of the month, of this lovely month of August, it will be 4 years teaching. And just before I hit 4 years, I will get just over 2,000 hours.
Fuck yeah!
So I'm gonna hit my highest level of credentialing at basically the earliest time you can get that credentialing.
Is that
the
when
4
you like
years.
hit the zen of like Buddha and you
Oh,
just
that-
like disappear?
Exactly.
Become one with the force.
That's exactly it. I registered. Exactly. That's exactly what happens. And it's like, you know, I punch in my hours, and the second I hit submit, I'm gone.
It's just gonna like float away on a little lotus petal, and it's gonna fly.
Exactly. You can get here too if you teach for 2,000 hours. Woo!
Chimes.
Ooh.
Anyway, Ashley, tell me about your adulting.
All right, so spoiler alert, Abby knows a little bit because I couldn't not tell her yesterday.
Okay.
Yesterday, I was off.
Yeah, girl. Wait, you got off or you were off?
First one, then the
No,
other.
I just had the day off. Instead of farting around, and as I'm prone to do, Tuesday night, I left. I didn't get. I was scheduled till 8. I didn't leave work till 8:40. Classic day for me. So I did the 2-hour drive down to Waltham, Massachusetts from like northern fuck. I know, yeah, northern fuck, New Hampshire, so that I could spend the night, wake up, and start cleaning my friends' their place. So I realized that I really need to take before and after shots of people's places, like not entirety, just like sections, you know, keeping their privacy or whatever. So and this
Or whatever.
or whatever. So they asked me if I could clean a bathroom that they had in the basement, which looks like no one's ever used it in a million years, and it was fucking gross. And it is nothing to do with them. It's just like it was on the bottom of their priorities, because yeah. But they want it to be usable. They're having guests, et cetera, et cetera. And I spent a long time taking pictures, not taking pictures. Fucking drunk head. I took a long time scrubbing, and I took a picture of the after and sent it to them. And my friend Jenny, she said, "Yay, thank you. That looks way less murdery."
This is important. You don't want your bathrooms to look murdery.
Yeah. And after I finished cleaning their place, I got in my car, and mind you, my check engine light's been on for a few days. So before driving back home, I called up a dealership by my house and said, "Hi, my check engine light is on. Can y'all see me?" They're able to fit me in, and then I proceeded to spend 3 fucking hours at the dealership. However, I hadn't finished my research notes for this episode. So I did that, and then I started updating our website.
What's up?
Holla! So it was very productive, and then I met a very nice man at the dealership. We started chit-chatting, talking about Somerville.
And then they did it.
No.
No. Sorry. I just felt like saying that.
That would have been a great plot for a porno.
At the beginning of this story, she did not get off.
Yeah, there you go. Anyway, long story short, I'm going again tomorrow to the dealership to talk about getting out of my lease, because my lease was for 3 years for 36,000 miles, and I'm at 80 now. Yeah, so that was my fucking adulting.
Nice.
That's a lot more adulty than I should have thought about this more. I'm like, oh.
I cram all of my adulting into like one day, usually.
One day.
And then the other days are filled with nachos and alcohol.
Right.
And podcasting.
That's how to live life, y'all.
Yep. Do you have any screw-ups to edit from last week?
No screw-ups, knock on wood, but maybe people are just not
Yeah.
scrutinizing us enough.
If you want to scrutinize us, please email us at cheerstoadulting@gmail.com. Or you can slide into our DMs on like
Right.
Instagram.
You can Twitter us, like when we check Twitter.
Yeah, almost never. All right, so Emily, we thought we should start with you. So on understanding therapy, finding the right therapist, basically 101, where to start.
Yes, this is a story that I know well. So yeah, I mean, I guess how to begin. So I started therapy the first time I started therapy, I was probably like 14, 15, something like that, and it was because my family like blew up.
I feel like that's an understatement.
Oh, for sure. But the people don't have time for that story. That is another day. year of recording. But yeah, essentially, like, my family fell apart. My mom was like, my kids are probably going to be really badly adjusted unless we get them to talk to a professional.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the professional thought that I was perfectly well adjusted, which Ashley can attest is false.
You wouldn't be my friend otherwise.
Right, exactly.
I don't like to be friends with well-adjusted human beings.
You just like to collect slightly damaged people.
And introverted people with, my extroverted energy can't deal with other extroverted energies.
No. You need someone like me who's like, people.
Yes!
You're just like, come to me. So yeah, this guy like thought essentially that like I was totally fine, and we watched YouTube videos for an hour, and my insurance paid for it.
Wow.
4 months, and I was like, I guess this is therapy. And you're like, I don't know. So that for the longest time, I thought that was therapy, and it's like the worst experience of my life. I hated it. This guy essentially was like, you don't have any problems. You have no reason to be really sad. Other kids have far worse things happening in their life, like poverty and abuse.
Wow.
Yeah, so he was really showing his ass on that one. But cut to college. Many people go through like stress-related depression, and that happened to me. I had a huge depressive episode. I like crashed. I had suicidal ideation. I was, I hit a bit of a rock bottom.
Just a little bit.
Baby.
A little bit of suicide thoughts,
Like a soupçon of wanting to die. So
a moose-boosh of suicide thoughts.
Who says this can't be funny?
Right?
But I'm ching.
I can laugh about it because I have it. But so I like knew that this was not great to not be to want to not be around. So because both my parents were and are mental health professionals. Oh yeah, I heard it. And so I was like, oh shit, gotta see a therapist. And so that's when my real therapy journey started. So like I said, I have depression and anxiety, a twofer. I just collect them
I wish our audience could see all the wonderful. Actually, I should snap some of these pictures that you do, and we can put them in.
There we go.
The video on YouTube.
Perfect.
Perfect.
So, I'm trying to.
I gotta just keep my finger hovered for all the
You're gonna
wonderful
get
faces.
You're gonna get worse facial expressions though. It'll be like me with my. Anyway, okay. You gotta get that much.
Therapy.
Therapy. So yeah, I have depression, anxiety, and it's triggered by all sorts of things. It's just a delightful. You never know when it's gonna hit. And so I started my therapy journey with someone who was actually in a PhD program. So she had her master's, and I get this kind of question all the time. How did you get into therapy? Why did you get into therapy? Personally, I think everyone needs to be in therapy at some point in their lives because we're raised by humans, and humans fuck up.
Yeah.
And don't know what they're doing.
I feel like that is the best fucking explanation for why people should try therapy or why we're fucked up is we're humans and we're not going to be perfect parents. It reminds me of Abby, your blog post recently that she was having a discussion with Isaac, her husband, and she was talking about her mother. I'm telling your story.
Hey,
for you.
it's perfectly fine. It's
But she was basically talking about her parents and stuff like that, and I'm just really doing a shitty job of summarizing it. I lost my train of thought, but basically. Isaac pointed out, you realize that your mom is a whole human being, just like you are. And, she doesn't have her shit together. And she's like, oh, you're right. Yeah. I forgot that my mother is another human, like me.
I mean, you forget that, right? When you're raised, you're raised by your parents, and, your entire life, you're like, they are the real adults. But, let's be real now that we've reached our peak adultiness. We don't know what the fuck we're doing. And our parents,
they didn't.
No.
Are you kidding me? They're just I guess we'll make a baby now. This didn't come with a manual. You can read a million books and you can still fuck up. children. So go see a therapist. Trust me, you'll find issues you never knew you had. So yeah, basically, I've since had people come to me, and I've now seen like 3 other therapists, because it's, you know, I finished up I served my time with my college therapist, and then I thought, I'm cured, which is hilarious, because you're not, because you're constantly growing and developing as a person. And I, as Ashley knows, I like entered a relationship with someone who was
Toxic, asshole, douchebag.
Yeah, so he was less than supportive, and it was a bit of an emotionally toxic environment. And my father is an alcoholic narcissist with antisocial personality tendencies, so kind of like a psychopath.
Kind of?
So,
He hasn't murdered anybody, though, so that's a plus for him.
that's true, and they caught the Golden State Killer, so he
Not
can't be
him.
back
Yeah, and he was in California, so...
at the right time. So
Oh, I did not know that.
no, he's fine. He's not. He just likes to destroy his family members' lives, not, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, essentially, like, I finally like know a lot about the therapy process because I've done it so many times, and I like know what it can be like, and it can be a daunting task. So things you should know. Yeah. Yes.
Oh, I was gonna say, I don't know if you would like, maybe we could segue. Abby has some useful ways, other than therapists, some other services that could be, like, you know, sometimes you can't get to a therapist. Or maybe you're agoraphobic, or just like, you're not an in-person kind of person.
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. Let me talk about kinds of therapists and how to pick your therapist and all that jazz, and then like, yeah, let's do it. So, okay, so types of therapists or mental health professionals. Obviously, there's a psychiatrist. They can prescribe you medication. I have a psychiatrist. We're buds. Sometimes they can also be, like, act as a therapist, because every psychiatrist has to be trained in talk therapy and psychotherapy. You know, I will say that a lot of psychiatrists, if not most, only focus on the medication portion because they don't have to do talk therapy. And in my experience, I like to work with other professionals because they're staying fresh on like new techniques, and a lot of psychiatrists don't have to like keep up to date on that stuff. So you may end up with someone a little bit stale. That's just my personal opinion, but or you can work with someone who has a PhD or a PsyD. They're experts in psych. They are trained in counseling, psychotherapy, psych testing, cognitive behavioral therapy, which is super if you have anxiety or depression, very person-centric in what your needs are. Or I've worked with social workers.
Yeah,
like
not to cut you off or anything, but my therapist that I had, who was wonderful, I fucking loved her. She was a licensed social worker. And actually, funny enough, I didn't know until afterwards she specialized in sex therapy. With couples and stuff. I didn't go for that, but that would have been helpful. But just a little like peek into like later in the episode. She was trained to do hypnotherapy, which was like a double whammy for me, and it was wonderful. And because she was a licensed social worker therapist, she wasn't pushing meds on me. And it was only until I brought it up and discussed it that it was like I would have to go to someone else to do that.
Yeah. And I will say that, so my last therapist was also a licensed social worker, or an LCSW, licensed clinical social worker. And, you know, their goal, and same with like a psychologist who has a PhD, their goal is really just like enhance and maintain your psychological and social functioning. All these things, you're not going to be cured, unfortunately. You know,
there's not a magic cure for a brain.
No, I mean, there's not like anything like this. It's like a Band-Aid, and what you're doing is learning how to manage and how to do your best given your circumstances
and the world.
In the world, and like just be like high functioning and like know how to, if you have an anxiety attack, like what that looks like, and like have the tools and the skill set to deal with it. And these people like are able to give that to you, which is fantastic. My last licensed social worker was the reason why I was like, oh wait, I'm in an abusive relationship. Let me get out of this. Like, it took me a while. And
I
like,
love the what's it called? Transatlantic diction.
Oh, the transatlantic.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh, look at this abusive relationship right here. Oh, you want to go to the talkies and watch a moving picture?
Listen, I just want to be Katharine Hepburn and wear pantsuits and be cool in it, but I can't.
And be abusive to your daughter. Because then you can go to a therapist.
Okay. Last things. Essentially, like, things to keep in mind. Credentials aren't everything. Just because someone has a PhD doesn't mean they're going to be better than a licensed clinical social worker. So you kind of have to shop around. It's like dating.
Yeah.
It is. It's like dating when you're like finding a therapist. Imagine, if you will, that you have like Tinder for psychologists. Collect names from your managed care company or your. If you have insurance. If you don't have insurance, I found my last therapist by going to Psychology Today. On their website, they've got lists and lists and lists of psychologists in your area and what their licensing is. You can look at their picture. And honestly, it just like dating online, you learn a lot by someone's picture and you can get a sense of like what they're like and if you're going to be into it. And I'm picking up what you're putting down. So you can always find out if they take your insurance. And if you don't have insurance, a lot of therapists will work on a sliding scale with you. That's always an option, or they'll refer you on to someone who will do that. And, you get into the therapy room for the first time, make sure that you, like, your therapist will, like, help talk you through, like, if you've never done this before, like, what's your goal for therapy? Is it to get out of a toxic relationship? Is it stop having panic attacks in the street? Is it, to continue wanting to live? All things, you'll set a clear goal, and that will be your therapeutic goal, and you'll work through that. And once you've achieved your goal, maybe you'll find another goal, and you'll keep working towards it. And at some point, you may find that you don't need to go to therapy anymore, at least for a time, or maybe forever. Who knows? Mm-hmm. Maybe you're a magical unicorn, and this is your truth. But I find that every time I go back to a therapist, I glean some more information about myself. But when you go into the therapy room for the first time, like, get a feel for the person. It's like a first date. Like, you can get some of their information about their history. Make sure you ask if they've ever been to therapy, because it's like seeing a priest who doesn't believe in God.
Yeah.
If you go to a therapist who's never gone to therapy, because, like, if they've never worked on themselves, how the fuck are they going to help you work on you?
Yes, girl.
I feel like I got to jump in here and say, just on a personal level, I know a lot of people who have gone down the, like, therapy route to, become a therapist, and it's almost as a way to avoid working on themselves. And I've never had them as therapists. I know them just as friends, and I just look at them and I'm thinking, that's a recipe for disaster. Like, that's not going to end well. You're going to end up with people like the therapist you had when you were 15, who was all like, oh, no, you're well adjusted. You have no reason to be upset. Like, you
Let's
get
watch the YouTubes.
Let's watch the YouTubes. And,
Yeah, no, exactly. You get people who are sort of jaded by the whole process, and like, I'm sure, like, everyone who goes into psychology goes in, or most people, I would think, hopefully, go into it thinking, I'm going to help people, and I'm going to help people adjust, but, like, you're going to get really tired and jaded unless you, like, know the transformative experience of therapy firsthand. So these are other things. And, like, the last thing that I'll say to consider when you're, like, figuring out your therapist, think about what gender you want your therapist to be. I know it sounds like I'm an ultra feminist. I get it. It's kind of like super gender to be like, I only want to speak to a woman or whatever. But it is, a lot of our problems come from our family dynamics and what we saw our parents do, what our parents did to us, what our grandparents did. Like, it's all family dynamic theory. And like myself, if you have a terrible relationship with your father, maybe don't put yourself in a room with a man.
Yeah.
If you have problems with, like, male authority figures, you're probably going to have a problem with a male authority figure as your therapist.
Yes.
Yep.
So like think about that. Think about what your needs are, and like there's no right or wrong answer, really.
I feel like I would feel more comfortable. I've only ever had a woman therapist, and not that I don't feel comfortable with men. Like fuck it, I've had a male gynecologist. I don't care who goes down there. They, as long as they know what the fuck they're doing. Anytime they're like, do you mind if I bring in an intern? I'm like, the more the merrier. They gotta learn. They've probably seen other vaginas. I'm more than okay with them seeing mine. This is all medical. But when it comes to my brain, and like how to identify, it's just like, I know that, men can identify with me and understand, but when it comes to like really getting to it, it's just like, they might not understand like my PMS, which I know that I can get, or I used to get a little more manic and like crazy pants, and thank God I have a patient boyfriend.
Well, I mean, yeah, like I think there's something to be said about going with a therapist who can understand your lived experience and can really just like, can empathize. And like a good therapist, no matter what gender, sex, lifestyle, religion, politics, whatever, they should be able to empathize with you and go in, and every good therapist, it should be a non-judgment zone.
Like Planet Fitness.
It's a safe space. But really, like, it should be a place where you can say anything and everything, and that's why, like, you can see a gynecologist, because it's just, like, it's just your vagina.
Yeah.
But it's your innermost thoughts and feelings, and maybe you're going to say some dark shit in that room, and, like, you want to be able to trust that person and feel
with
comfortable.
Your vagina.
Right.
Like,
I mean, that's deeper than the vagina. Like, that's like
that's in your brain,
right?
One's just genitals, the other's all of your fears laid bare. One, it's just, so that's my spiel about finding a therapist for you. Oh, and I just wanted to say one thing about what you had said like earlier. I thought about it. Most good therapists aren't going to push medication on you, and they shouldn't be like, you need to be on these meds. And if they are, I'd be like, so what drug company is paying you?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a thing to keep in mind. If you see a psychiatrist, obviously you're there because you're like, pills, please. And like, I'm on antidepressants and like all for it. I'm a huge fan. They saved my life.
I will definitely have you talk about that later on for sure. It's just like, as you're saying, it's just like a good therapist. The thing is that you want to try and take the easy, like you want to slowly roll into it, and if talk therapy works, then it's great. You don't have to resort to putting these chemicals in your body that do have side effects. But the thing is, sometimes you don't have a fucking choice.
Right.
Yeah, and to be honest, these medications, I take like some like umbrage with that, just because it's like people get like all up in arms about the fact that like, these are chemicals you're putting in your body, and mostly they're just letting the chemicals that already exist in your body do the job that they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're not really like, you're not like flooding your body with like asbestos, like like
Crack cocaine.
crack cocaine. Like So if you had cancer, for example, and you took medication for that, that stuff is actually toxic chemicals.
Yeah.
But it's saving your life.
Yep.
This is less harmful and also still saving your life.
Right. And to steal something from a cookbook, if you can't do homemade, store-bought is perfectly fine.
Yes.
Yes. Great analogy.
If your homemade serotonin's broke, it's time to take it from the can.
But I mean, that's it. And I forget who it was who pointed this out, and I might have just been like lurking in on a conversation. Everyone is dependent on their serotonin levels. Everybody. So whether you're doing it naturally, like your body's just naturally able to create it, or you have to
Fuck those people.
right? Or you have to take medication for it. Either way, you're dependent on it. And I mean, that's my feeling on the matter. Like we're dependent on those chemicals, and it's just a matter of whether or not we can naturally create them, or we need to do store-bought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a prosthetic for the brain.
Here we go.
Helps you walk.
Well, it's just like
mentally. Let's see how many analogies we can use.
and let's see how sexual they can get. Out. So yeah, that's my spiel on therapists, and you know, and if you go to a therapist, you're not quote unquote crazy, and that's an incredibly stigmatizing word, and we throw around that word all the time, and like people get upset about it. I understand, but
well, those people need to get over their shit. And we're helping our audience get over your shit. It's okay to see a therapist.
Right.
And if you can't go in person, Emily was talking about, there are other ways. And Abby, you want to let us know, what are the other ways?
I will definitely jump on in, and I'll actually segue a little bit with my own history of therapy, which is the fact that I avoided it like the plague until my life blew up. And that's also kind of a bit of an right? And that's also kind of a little bit of an understatement.
Hashtag samesies.
I know, right? Woo, we have to wait till our lives blow up, and we have literally no other choice but to do it. And it's a very, very long story, but it was always this just attitude of...
Reader's Digest.
But yeah, I avoided it for a lot of reasons, and then even when I realized I needed it was kind of scary, because it's like, again, it's like going into the dating world where it's like, here are all these names, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know if she's gonna like me, I don't know if she's gonna judge me. I avoided it for an additional 6 months, despite the fact that my life was blowing up all around me, and I was in a pool of anxiety and dread and like could not handle life. Still not doing therapy.
With no floaties.
Zero floaties. So I add in that story to just say that it is scary to take that leap. And I mean, I personally wish that I had started earlier. My life might have blown up a little bit less if I had been in therapy since, like, I don't know, like 5 maybe, like childhood therapy on. But it's scary.
Sidebar.
It is.
I technically have been in therapy. Well, the first time I went to a therapist was when I was a child, but it was family therapy because we got in a car accident. I believe that was the reason, and it hit like on my side, and it was an ice cream truck, and every time the ice cream truck came, I would run inside screaming.
Oh no.
Oh, baby!
Post-traumatic stress, baby.
But we went as a family, and apparently one of my older brothers, Marco, fucked with a therapist. I was talking about like eating a pillow or something. I don't know.
What the fuck, Marco?
So funny. Anyways, sorry.
back over to, so that, you know, again, it can be really scary too. We might actually avoid doing therapy because we don't want to make that leap. We're scared to make that leap anything. But there are other options, and the beautiful thing about the internet is that we're getting these new avenues to find help. So the first thing I want to do is make a very clear line between therapy and being in crisis. If you are in crisis, please do not be calling these various therapy places or therapy websites. Please call the suicide hotline. That's 1-800-273-8255. If you are in crisis, please call that number. I cannot stress this enough. And if you do not want to call, there is a texting crisis line, which is just texting the number 741-741. You text them, they can text back. These are not licensed therapists that you will be talking with, but they are trained suicide prevention specialists. And
I'll make sure that we post it on our social media, and we'll definitely have it on the our YouTube page.
Very much so. So I can't stress that enough. This, if you are in crisis, please do not be going down these routes. This is more for, you know, I want to take the long route. I'm working on myself. I would like to get some help. So what I'm going to be talking about is online therapy, specifically texting services or Skyping services. Some of the big guys are Talkspace, which does online therapy. They do texting. BetterHelp, which if you watch a lot of YouTube, especially original content on YouTube, you might have noticed that a lot of the YouTube creators have been using them as a sponsor.
And we're not sponsored by Talkspace, but a lot of podcasts that I listen to, they're sponsored by Talkspace. Yep. So this is you're welcome for free sponsoring of Talkspace.
Sponsor us.
Right.
Sponsor.
Like, you can tell that we need lots and lots of therapy, so please be our sponsors. So we have 7 Cups, we have BetterHelp, and these are all places that you could do Skyping, you could do texting. However, it's very important to go into it understanding that it might not work for you. There are mixed reviews when it comes to these sites. Some love it, they swear by it. Others feel that they don't feel like they've been getting enough engagement with their therapist. They feel that it's not worth the price. There are some tips if you are looking into the online therapy world. The first one is to make sure you're getting a licensed mental health practitioner. As we mentioned before, credentials don't mean too much in terms of PhD versus MSW, but make sure they're licensed, because the word therapy, like, anyone can call themselves a therapist. There's no regulating body to be like, no, you got to have your license before you say you're a therapist. So make sure they're a licensed mental health practitioner. Also be very careful of the word coach, because you might find life coaches, and that's also like, that could be literally anyone. That could be the person who, they're selling Beachbody shakes, and also I'm a life coach, and they don't know what the fuck they're talking about, and they're doing more harm than good. Can you hear the venom in my throat?
There are good life
Life
coaches,
coaches.
though. I don't know, without her permission, a close friend of mine, she deals with a lot of mental health issues. And she goes to group therapy, a therapist, and she just added on talk therapy. Or not talk therapy, she added on a life coach. And for her, she needs to go fucking full force army control on her brain and her mental health. And I say God love her for having to deal with that, and being able to be okay with, and just say it's okay that I have to do this much therapy or these many things, and if it works for her, you know?
Yeah, but I will say though, if you are going through things where you are thinking about seeing a therapist, and you can only choose between a therapist or a life coach.
Therapist.
Life coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they aren't trained and they don't know, and if you eventually end up in a crisis, you're fucked. They're not going to be there for you. So,
at the end of the day, a life coach is a positivity cheerleader, and sometimes you need that. You need the rah-rah, sis boom ba.
I feel like it's the seasoning. It's the salt on the rim.
Yeah, you can salt bay it with your...
Salt bay that shit with a little life coach if you need, but you gotta have that base. Your tequila is a therapist.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's one huge thing to look out for. And a lot of these sites are actually really good about that. They make sure they're licensed therapists or mental health practitioners. And if this is really not something that we're kind of oh, this is really new territory, I don't want to go into Talkspace, I don't want to go into BetterHelp, I'm not okay with it, that is okay. A lot of therapists, in your area, might have the option of, you know what, we'll Skype in. If you don't want to come to my office and this is not comfortable for you, we will meet via online. And you can always look into that. And I know that if we're already scared to do the leap into contacting the offices and making that appointment, and oh man, I fucking remember the first time I had to make my appointment. It was ugly. They asked me what I was going in for, and I just basically rapid fire anxietied on them, and followed by a very self-conscious laugh, because I was like, I basically told you my life is in the shitter. But still.
horrible.
See, so there is humor in this podcast, but it's extremely morbid and dark, which sometimes you just need. You need to embrace the dark humor.
So Israel, I think we have one Israel listener. They'll get it.
There we go.
Israeli humor is fucking dark. It's dark.
So, so that might be scary, but that might be a route for you. And while the studies are really not in, the research has just begun. So anything that is coming out right now, we have to be very careful because we don't have enough information. But they are finding that online therapy might be as effective, if not even more effective, than regular one-on-one therapy. There was a study done through the Journal of Affective Disorders with 62 patients. Half of them had regular talk therapy. The others emailed their therapists, and they would have writing assignments with those therapists. And they found that 50% of the online therapy patients appeared to have completely recovered, while only 42% of the people with face-to-face therapy were depression-free. And one reason they think that is because if you're emailing, there might be a little more understanding that you have to do the work. And that's actually another thing that I think a lot of people might not get. You really have to do the work. The therapist is there to help you and guide you and provide insight. And if a medical route is needed, they can bring you down the route of medicine. But at the end of the day, you're really doing the work. If you sit there and go, okay, therapist fixed me, you're not going to get very far. And they think that maybe doing something like having to email the therapist and having writing assignments makes you understand, oh, wait a minute, I am doing the work. This is on me. They're just there to help me. They're my mental health Sherpa, if you will.
I need a mental health fucking Sherpa.
Right? They're going to help me up the Everest known as my crippling anxiety disorder. Yay! So that is their rationale, at least. But again, this is only one study. It hasn't been duplicated yet. But this could be a route for us. It could even just be a stepping stone. Maybe we're on BetterHelp for a month or two. We like the texting thing, but we're like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to do it, one-on-one therapy with in person. And I'm going to end this with just saying, hey, it's tough to get into therapy. We're going to figure out the route that works for us, as long as that route gets us towards healing. That's the huge one. If we have to do stepping stones like texting, and maybe we just text, or we text and Skype and then in person, or we go straight into in person, figure out the route that works for you, because that's the vital part right there.
We talked about different types of therapy. I guess I'll jump to that instead. I was going to talk about mental health and why it's important because it affects your physical health, but I think we're really going on the road of talking about different types of therapy and what therapy works for you. I would like to tell people about hypnotherapy, not as like a solo sort of thing, but same thing with life coach or whatever, but a little more important than that. Hypnotherapy really helped me. The first time that I went to hypnotherapy, it was for procrastination. And I think for me, that was literally like upon reflection and having like had my mental health journey, that was a Band-Aid for my fucking ADD.
Oh.
The procrastination was because of my fucking ADD. Because I couldn't focus and I was, and it helped me a little bit. But you know what helped? Was getting meds. But that wasn't until like after college. And I really should have gotten my ADD medication when I was in college, and would have made my life so much easier. Instead of literally being up all night taking 15-minute naps because I couldn't focus, and like having to do little intervals because that's how my brain worked. Anyway, so hypnotherapy, according to Psychology Today, what is hypnotherapy? Hypnotherapy is guided hypnosis or a trance-like state of focus and concentration achieved with the help of a clinical hypnotherapist. Blah, 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 blah. In this state, clients can turn their attention completely inward to find yada, yada, yada. When's it used?
Did you just yada, yada, yada?
Yeah, hypnotherapy, yeah. So...
Wait, you have ADD? What?
I know, right?
I know, right? I just copy and pasted way too many things and I don't want to fucking read it all.
I feel like this is a good time to mention that both of your podcast co-hosts, y'all, are like hardcore ADD.
Oh, top!
Woohoo!
Yeah. So, hypnotherapy can be used to treat anxiety, phobias, substance abuse, including tobacco, sexual dysfunction, undesirable spontaneous behaviors, and bad habits. It can be used to help improve sleep, learning disorders, communication, and relationship issues. Hypnotherapy can also aid in pain management and help resolve medical conditions such as digestive disorders, blah, 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 blah. So that's a little bit about hypnotherapy. So when I was seeing my therapist and I had told her about that I had gone to a hypnotherapist, she informed me, did you know I can do hypnotherapy too? And I was like, bam, awesome, let's fucking do it. So we would do it on days that I didn't have anything to say. And I didn't know what to say. There was nothing new. It's like, I'm still depressed. My boyfriend died. Still depressed. My dad's still dead. Still depressed. Don't know what to talk about. I have no money. Still really fucking depressed. We would do hypnotherapy for stress relief. And it was great. And the thing about hypnotherapy is that it's not going to work unless you want it to work. Because it's not about being hypnotized. It's literally about... What? It's about learning to control your body and letting yourself fucking relax. And a good hypnotherapist, which doesn't even have to be that good, they just have to say things. They talk about, think about your eyes relaxing. Think about your entire body, like everything becoming heavy, everything relaxing. And just focusing on that helps your brain think about nothing. And then they start talking about, like, envision a meadow. And what is in this beautiful meadow that you see? Oh, imagine an elevator and you're going down. What's the elevator made of? And you're just thinking about nothing but these sort of things. And it starts to relax you. And then they talk about it a lot in your hypnotherapy, just relaxing. That's the things that you're working on, is relaxing, finding a happy place. What makes you happy? Green floors or green carpet, and just thinking about the things that will fucking relax you. And you're so focused on that you're not focusing on all the shit. And if you're really lucky, like, I've been told that I'm very susceptible. Thank God I know how to relax my body, because I like to relax. I like to take fucking naps. And every time I come out of my hypnotherapy, I feel like I took a fucking nap. And I feel like a champ. And it's great. And the thing is that they'll tell you, you don't have to focus on what they're talking about once they start saying the things like, you will do this, you will do that. You don't have to worry about that. And they say the message according to what you want to focus on in your hypnotherapy. And they talk about, because once you get in such a relaxed state, your subconscious will hear it. Even if you're thinking about, like, I could really go for some fucking nachos and margaritas after this. It doesn't matter if you're thinking about that, because you will still hear what they're saying. And I can't stand by enough, like, how awesome hypnotherapy is. And you can do it for literally anything. And I haven't done any research on some of the apps out there. There are some old apps from the very first hypnotherapist I went that she had available. They had, like, for weight loss, for insomnia, for stress relief, for motivation. It's just like, that's just one more thing that you can utilize as a key for your mental health on top of regular therapy.
Yeah. And I just want to piggyback off of that, because
Piggyback away.
I'm gonna piggyback. I'm light. It's cool. You can carry me. So
You're light as I could piggyback 4 of you.
that's fair. So,
I'm also wicked strong.
So, like, the thing that what you just said reminded me of, and I actually, like, wrote my, like, thesis paper about this, is mindfulness meditation. So, like, it's like do it yourselfers if you don't want to see a therapist or whatnot, you know. Meditation can be really tricky, and it's really tough for some people, because they get, like, caught up in that "am I doing it right" thing. And the fun thing about that is that if you're doing it right. Yay. Feet. So there's all sorts of apps you can use, and I know none of these are sponsored, but hashtag sponsor the show. I really enjoy Buddhify. It's spelled
I've heard of Buddhify.
Yeah, Buddhify. Don't quote me on that.
We'll look it up.
Look it up. Tag it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Buddhify's awesome. There's a bunch of free mindfulness meditations you can do, whether you're on the subway or, like, eating, or you're on a coffee break or whatever. And it's just like being mindful of the moment. And it really helps if you have depression and anxiety, or if you just have the type of personality that tends to like hash and rehash the most embarrassing moment of your life, you know, on replay. So mindfulness meditation is awesome. And I wish I had the research.
I feel like hypnotherapy is guided meditation.
It is.
It's guided meditation, and that's the way that it should be really redefined. It's not when people hear hypnotherapy, they think of hypnosis and like balking like a chicken, and really it's fucking meditation at its truest form. But someone is saying the things that you need to hear and you want to hear, but you can't tell yourself, and just hearing that over and over again. And they help you focus. And if you're fucking ADD like me, meditating on a good day can work. On average every day, I'm gonna be like,
What's on Netflix?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing too, is that like if you want to get the benefits of mindfulness meditation, like you sort of have to like get in a routine of it. So that's kind of tough, and the discipline's tough. But even 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, or twice a week, whatever, any amount is good. And like they've done all sorts of research that show that like mindfulness meditation can significantly improve your mood and like over the long term. And they like if you do a brain scan of someone after they've meditated, or even like if you're religious, I mean, praying, it has a similar effect on the brain. It soothes your shit down. So these are all good things to consider. Yeah.
I feel like I definitely have to jump in here because, what's up, yoga instructor?
yes.
Like, and I mean, this really touches home for me because...
No brag or anything.
Right?
Not to say that I'm an expert at this, but I kind of do meditation for a living with exercise.
Like 2,000 hours, what? Highest level of credentialing at the end of the month. But no, this it's not just, oh, hey, look at me, I'm the professional.
Humble brag.
Right, hashtag. But it's also something that's really near and dear for me because, actually I would also put myself in the category where I needed a whole fucking team to get my shit back together. I was going to therapy. I was going to basically, not recovery meetings per se in terms of like being addicted, but being family members of those who are addicted. I was going to those. I was doing a lot of yoga. I was doing a lot of meditation. I needed, and fucking hiking and running and all the shit.
All the things.
And that really also affected how I became, how I shaped my yoga life and career. A lot of my training these days is on trauma-sensitive, trauma-informed yoga. One of my favorite trainings was for veterans with PTS, and the research is there. I can't stress enough. The research is there. I'm thinking of a few names off the top of my head. Bo Forbes, who is this amazing a neuropsychotherapist / yoga teacher. She has, if she didn't do the studies herself, but she has brought forth a lot of studies that show you do mindfulness meditation or you do a mindfulness exercise like yoga or martial arts, it's going to help you. Besser Vandelkoek, who wrote The Body Keeps the Score, and I can't stress enough, like that book, like everybody should get that, whether on audiobook or textbook, and it's amazing. Amy Cuddy, who's the author of Presence, she talks about that, like the research is there. And it can be anything. Like it really is. If you're doing it right. If it is, I need to just notice my breath, right? And it could be literally one breath. Like that's one of my favorite ones to tell people who say they can't meditate. I'm like, do the one breath meditation. Completely focus on one inhale and its corresponding exhale. Boom, you fucking meditated, kid.
You fucking meditated, kid.
Right?
Oh my God, I meditated.
And
I did it.
Right?
I did a thing.
You did a thing. And like there's all these different things you can do. There's ones where you can really focus on the breath, and that's a huge one because breath affects emotions the same way emotions affect our breath. Like anyone who's ever been stressed out knows you don't fucking breathe when you're stressed out, or you breathe rapidly, you're hyperventilating. I got a little Boston there. But
Hyperventilating kid.
you're fucking not hyperventilating, kid. Drink a fucking beer, some shit. But it's a two-way street. If you can find ways to take those big, deep breaths, it's not just that, oh, I count to 10 and deep breaths, blah, 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 that we've been hearing since we were kids. It's you're actually helping kick in your parasympathetic side of your nervous system, the side that will kind of calm you down. Maybe,
that was all sciencey. I got
right?
tingles.
Let me talk about the vagus nerve then and belly breathing. Like maybe you're focusing on something like that where you breathe where like you basically inhale, I'm pregnant. Exhale, press in. Inhale, I'm pregnant. Like not literally pregnant. I mean you stick out your belly on your inhales, not like fertilized. Not fertilized. Not.
I was about to say, I'm like, are we doing delusions next? We're gonna be
But that's a huge one to do, because not only do you, I mean, you have to really focus on belly breathing, because that's weird. We breathe in the rib cage. Usually we don't breathe through our bellies.
We
that's
breathe wrong.
right? But that does what's called vagal toning, and I know that sounds so dirty. And we're just going to take a moment.
Kegels?
Yeah, we're going to take a
Kegel
moment.
toning?
We're going to take a moment with that vagal
That
toning.
reminds me, I'm really behind on my Kegel exercises.
gosh.
If that's the case, I'm fucking light years behind, because like what?
And next week's episode, we'll be discussing vagina eggs.
Ooh,
Right.
yes!
I feel like I just need to jump here and say that is not what vagal toning is. If you have an egg, that's awesome. Have fun with that. Like, strengthen that pelvic floor, baby. But just really, really quick, the vagus nerve is, for all intents and purposes, the commander-in-chief of that parasympathetic side of our nervous system. That's the guy that decides, all right, we're going to kick this shit in. We're going to calm ourselves down. So those belly
I
breathings...
hope the Obama years and not the Cheeto years.
Yeah. Oh no. These are. I want my vagus nerve to be Obama. Like, I just want that. I want, like, straight, like, with the voice and everything. Like, ooh, I'm already calm just thinking
All right.
about that.
You're gonna be calm. You're gonna be centered.
Right?
This is what you're gonna do.
It's gonna be okay. I'm here for you.
Your center of attention is gonna be so big, people won't even know how to handle it. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. Well, bigger than everyone else.
All of it.
Right? Like, none of. I need none of that in my life. None
So
of it.
vagal Obama years.
Yeah, the Obama years vagal nerve, like, and it's the one that will kick in and say, hey, like, let's get the more parasympathetic side kicking in. Let's get the calm side.
About Trump bagel.
I know, right? So if we're prone to things like anxiety attacks, and this is coming from personal experience, you know, that belly breathing, and I prefer to do it on my back, everybody. It's a little bit easier than doing it seated. And you know, like, maybe a minute of that, and you calm down, but you're also strengthening that nerve, and it's going to be a little more apt to kick in. And so when you're freaking out and you want to get that more calm side kicked in, you can belly breathe. So, but yeah, that's, I went on a little tangent there, but it really is, this is my bread and butter. This is what I do. This is why I do what I do. I truly believe this shit is what helped me get my head on straight when I swore nothing else would. So really, try it out. Try some type of meditating. And if that doesn't work, moving meditating, yoga, martial arts, hiking, running, something, you know?
Emily, super important. I feel like you know the most when it comes to medication. Compared to me, and just like my own experience of talking with you about medication and like other friends and their medication, and you're well versed in medication from having done them.
I did some pills. So yeah, let's talk about meds, baby.
Let's talk about SSRIs. Let's talk about dopamine and other medical terms.
So anyway, that went really well. I'm proud of us. So yeah, medication. We were talking about it like earlier in the show. Huge fan. I'm a big fan of meds.
Same.
You know, I'm down. If you end up having a conversation with your therapist and they say, I think you should consider being on an antidepressant, anti-anxiety medication, antipsychotic, you know, what have you. There's nothing wrong with that. I hear this all the time, especially from like, I grew up in California, so I have lots of like hippie friends who are like, don't put chemicals in your body and just go out for a walk in the woods. You'll be fine. And if I did that, I'd be dead. So
go walk in the woods, watch a talkie film.
Be fine. So yeah, no, that's some bullshit, straight up. Sometimes you just need some meds. Sometimes it's temporary. It doesn't have to be long term. I'm probably going to be on antidepressants for the rest of my life. For my brain is broke, but that's fine. And there's nothing to be ashamed of when it comes to that. And if your doses have to be upped or lowered or whatever, it's all good. So let's talk about types of medication. So when treating depression specifically, there are a bunch of different kinds you can use as an SSRI, like Ashley just mentioned.
Yep, that's what I've been on an SSRI twice in my life.
Yeah,
And
it's like
yeah.
it's like one of the more typical kinds of meds you'll probably be started on if you have depression specifically. So it's a serotonin reuptake inhibitor. Basically it can use symptoms of moderate to severe depression. They're usually fewer side effects with an SSRI because essentially what they do is that they block the reabsorption of serotonin in the brain. So imagine, if you will, they can't see it. I'm not
wait,
a camera.
do that with your hands again, and I'll take a snapshot.
Okay, great. So imagine you have two chemical messengers. Like you have two things right here, right? Boom. Just a picture. So in between those two little my fists, sexy. You're going to have serotonin flowing in between. And an SSRI essentially prevents one of the fists from reabsorbing it so that your brain's flooded by, oh my God, that's the worst picture I've ever seen of me.
I didn't keep that one. It was bad.
Right. So essentially an SSRI prevents one of those sides from reabsorbing it so that serotonin lives around in your brain space for longer and can help you be happy for longer. So, especially if you're really low in serotonin, which happens if you have depression or if you're incredibly stressed out or you've experienced trauma.
Yeah, like I when I described it to other people, it's like your brain has been in fight or flight mode for too much in this period of your life, and your brain's like, no, I'm good. I'm on vacation. Fuck you. And this helps your body regulate and remember how to do it. It's the training wheels. And then it's like, oh, I don't need it anymore. And once you decide that you can go off it, you go off it, and your brain can regulate and keep doing the things without those training wheels.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly. So sometimes, if we're
it's like physical therapy. You get crippled.
Right. Like if you have like gone through an incredibly stressful time in your life, maybe your brain's like low on serotonin. This really just helps get your levels back to normal.
Physical
and like I said,
therapy for your brain.
So basically you're not like putting new chemicals in. You're just helping the ones that already exist in your brain like stick around longer and do their job that they're supposed to be doing in the first goddamn place. So that's awesome. Love a good SSRI. It's also good for anxiety disorders too sometimes, because a lot of times, anxiety and depression are linked.
Yay, comorbidness.
They're buddies that fuck with your life. So
toxic best buddies. Yay.
So another kind of med is an SNRI, which is the kind, I think it's not what I'm on. I had to double check that. Hold on. An SNRI is a selective serotonin and norepinephrine inhibitor. So norepinephrine is a neurotransmitter that affects your pain and also anxiety and fight or flight and all these terrible things that give you stress. And essentially, you need some in your brain, but not too much in your brain. So this helps regulate all that stuff. And it's super helpful if you have chronic pain in addition to depression, which it makes sense. You have chronic pain, you're depressed about it.
Yeah.
It makes sense. They ease depression by impacting chemical messengers, the neurotransmitters, used to communicate between brain cells. Now I'm reading my notes. I need to stop doing that. But norepinephrine increases arousal and alertness.
Arousal?
It's important to have the proper level of arousal, man.
Right?
Like, not too much, not too little. Like,
Just
sweet
enough.
spot.
Just enough.
You want to hit that sweet spot, baby.
Just not to be a little perky, but not to be like that.
Describes my sex life to a T.
Oh my God. Another kind of med is a kind of medication that affects dopamine and norepinephrine. That's a little bit less common, and of course, that's what I'm on. I'm taking Wellbutrin, a lower dose of Wellbutrin, because my dopamine levels, unlike my serotonin levels, are not great. So dopamine is like the kind of is the neurotransmitter chemical thing that is part of the reward centers of your brain. So I was not feeling rewarded at all by anything. This guy was great, always. So Wellbutrin really helped me, and I had anxiety, and so and that had a lot to do with the dopamine levels in my brain too. But this is like a thing to keep in mind. This is a little bit of a tangent, but the first time you take a drug, it may not work for you, and that does not mean that there's not a medication out there for you that will work.
And you also have to give it time.
You also have to give it time. You have to give it time. It's not going to work immediately because it's your brain space.
Brain space.
It's brain space, and it's going to take a little bit longer to like work. So, it's going to take a little while, and there's so many different kinds of medications out there, and unfortunately, like a mood disorder or something like psychosis, it's not like a break, like an arm break, or something's going on with your organs. You can't like see it. So it's you can't see what's going on up there on the microscopic level. So it's kind of a bit of trial and error and seeing what meds work for you and what meds give you kind of fucked up side effects, because sometimes it'll be like, you're depressed and you can't have sex anymore, or like,
you gained 35 pounds. That was my life.
Right, like that shit can happen, and it's frustrating, and I get it, but like, never quit your pills cold turkey, because trust me, it's not worth it, and terrible things will happen.
Yup. I've definitely missed a few days and been like, why do I feel like awful?
Stick with it and like follow your practitioners, like your prescribers' advice, and be vocal about your needs too. Tell people like, this is not working for me, and they will find you one that does, because there's so many meds out there, which is bloody fantastic. So yeah, there's stuff that deals with dopamine. There's stuff that deals with norepinephrine and dopamine, like I just mentioned. That's called an NDRI. So that's the kind of med I'm on. Hey-oh. Then there's MAOIs, which is kind of an older type of med. And that's, oh God, monoamine
Sure.
oxidase.
Pat, you're going to have to look that word up.
I think it's monoamine oxidase inhibitors. Anyway.
Sure.
MAOI. Everyone calls it that. Don't worry about it. But yeah, that affects things. If you have panic disorder or social phobia, atypical depression. They can also be used if you have Parkinson's. If you have Parkinson's and depression, it's a twofer.
Twofer, right?
It's a twofer. So these are the some of the medications that you might be prescribed. Other anti-anxiety medications include benzodiazepines like Xanax, Valium, Ativan. These are some heavy-duty drugs that are pretty addictive. So
proceed with caution.
Proceed with caution. A lot of doctors have stopped prescribing them, or just prescribing them on like an as-needed basis. Like if you have a panic attack, take a Xanax. Instead of having you take it every day, because it can be incredibly dependency forming.
Yeah.
So, and there's a lot of other kinds of anti-anxiety meds out there now that are not dependency forming. So, talk to your doctor, especially if you have a family history of addiction. Think about it. That's kind of a rundown of medication.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Woohoo. Yeah, so right before we do a little bit, talk about the body, although our episode, we're going to have to cut it short. Although I'm okay with it being one of our longer episodes just because it's just so important. I'll just really quickly, can't express enough how much antidepressants, SSRI, really helped me in times of strife. The first time I took it was after my late boyfriend had passed away. Oh, fuck. Oh. Sorry.
Emotions. And now we're going to deflect with humor, everybody.
It's because Emily's here.
Oh. We have this, we just shared this spirit. I love you.
So the first time I took an SSRI was, oh, damn. I swear this is a comedy podcast. Was when my boyfriend had passed away, and it was very intense and very emotional and very sudden. And I couldn't handle it. And I never wanted to take meds before, because I was just, it was just, I didn't want to have to take anything, For me, it was just like, I did therapy before that. It was because I never dealt with the another abrupt death in my family. It was my father dying when I was 21 from a freak car accident. And I just knew, I was like, I can't do this on my own. Even with therapy and my friends, I was like, I know, especially from having you, Emily, and just understanding brains, is just my brain was just checked out and couldn't give me the serotonin that I needed and I took an SSRI and then sporadically used Ativan because I would have not panic attacks per se, but more like crying attacks, like as I was driving. And Ativan is a quick acting anxiety med, and it was wonderful. And I only needed that. I think I took the SSRI, I forget what the name is, but I took it for half a year. And then the next time I took it was, of course, I deal with a lot of financial stress and stuff. And financial stress and job stress, and it was just like I emotionally couldn't do it anymore. And that one I stayed on for a year, and that was more out of just being passive and be like, I don't think I need it anymore. And I was just like, I'll get off it eventually. And then 35 pounds later, I was like, wait, I gained 35 pounds? And then finding online, oh, weight loss is a symptom, especially if it's been a year. 6 months, I didn't notice. And like when you deal with someone dying, you tend to lose weight. I never did quite lose that 35 pounds, and I'm okay with that. And it was all for good. And, you know, my body kind of regulated itself of the metabolism that I should have. My metabolism was insane in all the way up to my mid to late 20s. And finally, my body was like, this is how your body should be. And I just can't express my gratitude enough for taking the meds when I needed it and just removing that stigma with it. And on that note, of course, we're going to do like the quickest little things. If you want to talk about the mind and body. And then I'm going to talk about mental health, physical health. Very quick, I'm just going to give quick little blurbs on how mental health is really important to your physical health.
There we go. So very rapid fire, and I actually
Rapid fire
now. I kind of touched on it before, but not just our breath and our minds are a two-way street. Our breath and our bodies is a two-way street. You know, what's going on in our mind can manifest in the body, which Ashley will touch upon, but also how we use our bodies can help us with our minds. The research is out there. I mentioned Besser van der Kolk's The Body Keeps the Score. That really is such an incredible book. I can't stress enough. And it talks about how literally the body keeps the score. What happens to us, the traumas, the Sorry, we gotta pause and watch a kitten very reluctantly get picked up
Pat
from
is
the table.
having to remove Fizzle from laying on all the important technical, like, the electronic items.
And now she's playing with a paper towel,
Dirty
so it's all
paper
good.
towel. Dirty nacho paper towel.
Right?
All right.
Not your paper towel.
Not your paper towel. It's my paper towel, bitch.
Right. So yeah, the body literally keeps the score. Muscle memory is as much going to affect our minds as our emotional memory. And so what we can do is we can use the body to help out the mind. And that is something yogis, martial artists, dancers, marathon runners, hikers, those are all in some ways have already figured out that in order to help your mind, sometimes you also have to help the body. I can't stress enough, this is not me saying, you don't need to go to therapy, you just need to take a walk and stuff. Yeah, see? But that really, you know, so be careful of that, because that's not what I'm saying at all. But what I'm saying is, on top of everything else, make sure you're incorporating the body. Yoga, the research is there.
Salt Bay of therapy.
Right, the Salt Bay, get a little yoga on. The research is there. I cannot stress enough. And actually both Amy Cuddy, I'm just going to keep being serious, y'all. Like... And, you know,
you're strong,
right? I can do this. Both Besser van der Kolk and Amy Cuddy have both said, you know, they're not yoga people, and they've both said, we don't understand yoga. We're not the woo-woo hippie people, but the
hippie people.
Yeah, fucking yeah, you woo-woo hippie people. But the research is there. We don't understand it, but this is something that they can keep replicating in studies. If you do yoga, if you're doing a mindfulness exercise, if you're doing that chronically over time, you are going to find relief from symptoms alongside other things. Like don't be just in depression and just do yoga. Like this is just again, I can't stress enough, this is not me saying do yoga in lieu of therapy and medication, what have you, but this is something you could do. And if yoga really isn't for you, any type of mindfulness exercise, it could be some type of martial art, you could be a runner, you could be a hiker, you could just, you know what, maybe you just do some stretches and you breathe deeply.
Ballet.
Right? Fucking ballet, dance. Dance is a huge one. Like, I'll admit, I have staved off anxiety attacks because I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just put on my headphones, I'm gonna go
Gasolina!
right? I'm gonna fucking just dance it out. And I've, especially at like my darkest times where I could have basically just been one gigantic anxiety attack, I staved off a few anxiety attacks that way. So yeah, you can use the body to help the mind. And now I'm gonna throw it on over to Ashley.
All right, so instead
Bravo.
of doing a whole spiel, I am just going to quickly express the importance of taking care of your fucking mental health. So your mental health is not only important for your brain, it's extremely important to your physical health. So, from Oxford University, serious mental illnesses reduce your, not to like scare you, but to scare you. Serious mental illnesses, this is serious, Emily.
I'm sorry.
Super serious.
Serious mental illnesses reduce your life expectancy by 10 to 20 years. An analysis by Oxford University psychiatrists has shown a loss of years that's equivalent to or worse than that for heavy smoking.
Oh my
Your
God.
mental health, if you don't take care of that, it can be worse than smoking. So it's just important that you take it seriously. So a little information from list first. Mental illness isn't just a problem with your mind, lead to serious physical diseases. Most concerning are probably the statistics that point to increased rates of heart disease in mental health patients. For example, while anxiety disorders may cause muscle and back problems, symptoms of anxiety along with disorders like Tourette's can also cause physical damage from repetitive stress injuries. I'm not going to go into the science of this because we've already talked about a lot of that. I found an article, exercise for mental health, published by Ashish Sharma, MD, Vishal Madan, MD, and Frederick D. Petty, MD, PhD. Aerobic exercises. I'm fucking like getting sloshed at this. I'm at slurring moment in my life right now. Aerobic exercises, including jogging, swimming, cycling, walking, gardening, dancing, have been proved to reduce anxiety and depression. These improvements in mood are proposed to be caused by exercise-induced increase in blood circulation, yada, yada, yada. Fucking physical health, whether it's hiking or fucking gardening, okay? That's not like that much stuff. Just like getting moving, getting your heart rate up, like fucking breathing because you're like trying to keep up that physical activity. Just fucking having sex, you know, just getting that going. Not to mention the fact that if you're orgasming while like having sex, that's going to increase those levels in your brain that are going to cause you happiness. I didn't pull up the statistics, but I read it somewhere. So you know it has to be true if it's on the internet.
I found it on the internet.
If you can, start off your day with a fucking orgasm, man. That's gonna help your day improve by a long shot, even if it's on your own. I fucking have a waterproof USB powered vibrator in my shower so that, like, you know, so one solo show, but whatever, it's gonna start my day off very quickly, nicely. Plug yourself.
Exactly.
That's all I wanted to talk about on just impressing upon you how important your mental health is, because it's going to cause, if you don't take care of it, it's going to cause physical things to happen to you. Back pain, tightness in your shoulders, that I haven't got the okay on talking about it, so much so that I know that stress can get built up so much in your shoulders and possibly cause vertigo and issues like that. It's just, you need to take care of your mental health because it's going to affect, you're going to get sick easier. It's going to compromise your immune system. Your mental health is so important. Oh, sorry, Emily, yes. Pop in.
And just one more thing about that.
Before
So
we wrap up, yes.
Yeah, to wrap up. But when you have anxiety and depression and all that stuff, or you've experienced trauma and you don't deal with it by going to therapy or like trying to temper your anxiety, this your body builds up a level of cortisol in your you build up cortisol in your body, and that can actually be passed on to your kids. So so this is something called epigenetics. They used to think, that like, oh, what happens to you in your life, like lived experiences, it's not going to affect your kids and their health. Bullshit.
Yeah, that article, I remember reading about how your stress in your life can carry down through your fucking genetics to your children.
Exactly, especially for women.
Generations of it.
So this is especially important for women. Women, pay attention. If you plan on having kids, or like just in general, if you are going to be carrying your own children, cortisol can like be passed through the umbilical cord to your kid, and it will affect. You can give your kids. Sorry, there's already enough stress when you're like gonna have a kid, but you can like your kid can have like anxiety and depression because like if you have incredibly high levels of cortisol, that's passed on to your kid. On one hand, this like is an evolutionary like benefit. Because, like, if you're living in an anxious environment, then your kid's going to be ready to deal with the anxious environment. However, we're not dealing with saber-toothed tigers attacking us anymore. So, like, why do we need this anxiety? Holy shit. It's just a weird holdover. But that's why it's really important, especially as women and men. Men need to pay attention to your mental health, too. They don't get enough attention on this.
I feel, yes. And I saw a wonderful video shared on Facebook that I shared that was wonderful. It reminded me of Jada Pinkett Smith's newest table talk that I really loved. It was like a men version, and I loved it. And the men all talked about defining what masculinity was to them, and them feeling that they couldn't be vulnerable to other men. And I think that goes hand in hand with like talking about their problems or feeling that they couldn't go to a therapist.
Yeah, and men are more likely to actually to commit suicide than women are because they aren't encouraged to go seek out help. So, dudes, also seek out help.
Get vulnerable.
Unfortunately,
talk about your feelings.
So yeah, that's my whole spiel about also like the physical health thing.
Thank you, Emily, for being our guest.
Yay!
For our longest episode.
I think episode 1 still is longer.
We'll see after editing, but I think it's important.
Yeah.
Everything that we talked about and was necessary. I love you. I miss you.
Love you.
Move back to New England. So all of our listeners, please follow us on all of our social media accounts. We got Facebook.
Right? We got Instagram.
We got Twitter. We never use it.
We have a website. I'm slowly updating more of the content, making it a lot more user-friendly. I am technology savvy, but not that tech savvy. I just have to play around with it. You can also, anything you want to talk about, I don't even care if it's a sentence, email us. Right.
Cheers to adulting @gmail.com.
For real.
If you like us and you want to help us fund this, because it's coming out of our own pockets, you can donate on many levels, as little and as much money as you want, at our Patreon account, to really help us increase our quality, reach out to other people. If you haven't already, please rate, review, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, on iTunes. It'll help get us out there, and yeah.
If you don't want to give us money, give us word of mouth. Because again, we're little people. Literally every single review counts. So please, like, even if it's just like, oh, I guess I'll press that 5-star button, like, please do that. It really means a lot to us, and we notice. We'll be like, look at, we go straight up every time we have a new, like, literally new listener. One new listener. We're like, look at this person from Brazil or this person from Japan.
I kick out the hardest. I'm like, we have a new country that's listening to us.
So it really does matter. Like, if you don't want to give us money, then take some time out of your day just to send a nice little review. Maybe share us on Facebook.
Or share us on Facebook. Tell your friends about it, that they need to listen to us, and tell them that we're fucking hilarious.
Right. Even when we're talking about mental health and depression and anxiety.
But there will be always a guarantee that there will be poop humor and Ashley talking about her vagina.
Right. Bagel
Guaranteed.
All right, and on that note, cheers our empty glasses. We've crushed through a lot of Painkillers.
Woo,
Cheers!
Cheers!
To adulting! Oh, I got a little sip.
Cheers to adulting.